Everybody,
Oh my.
Good news. We should hear good news. Just to recap what we've learned the last couple of shiurim, we discussed in the first shiur about the problems of ribbis which person can come across in his daily life, and how important it is for people to know the laws and the possible pitfalls which a person can fall into if he's not careful. And then we came to the second second shiur. In the second shiur we discussed the aspect of the Hete Iske, which was drawn up specially in order to allow people to invest money and get a return on their money, to make some profit on their money, and indeed to be guaranteed, nearly guaranteed 100% that they would get their original investment back, and also they would get some profit as well. And that was the basis of the Hete Iske, which we discussed in the last shiur, which was some time ago. And the basis of the Hete Iske was an investment between the two parties, the money provider and the person who takes the loan, or takes half of it is a loan and half of it is a pikadon, is an investment. And the person who takes the money, the one who's doing the work, he obliges himself that he will only be believed when it comes to discussing the original investment. He'll only be believed if he can bring two witnesses to prove what actually happened to the original investment. If he cannot provide the two witnesses, then he will not be believed. And we explained that this means that it's nearly impossible for a person to provide two kosher witnesses who actually saw the handing over of the original investment and knowing what actually it was used for and what actually the outcome of that investment was. So therefore, one is nearly 100% positive that the original investment will have to be returned in full. Concerning the amount of profits which came from the investment, in which the two people involved are partners, 50% each for the profit, we said that the person who's working has accepted upon himself, he will only be believed when he makes a shavua chamura, an oath, he takes an oath in Bezdin concerning the amount of profits that actually have come or have not come from the investment. And since most Jewish people will refrain from actually taking an oath in Bezdin, because they don't want to get involved in this serious matter of taking oaths, even about the truth, therefore it has been agreed between the two parties that if the person who has taken the money will pay a certain amount of profits for the share of the investor, the original investor, the money provider, then the money provider will be happy to get this amount of profit, and any other profits will be taken by the person who actually does the work, the misasek. That's what we came to in the last, I believe, in the last two shiurim which we had. And we went through, each person had a copy of a regular Hete Iske, and it was filled in, and then we hope that people have an understanding that when it comes to it, and a person wishes to invest by a second person, they could actually fill in a Hete Iske in order to cover the agreement between the two parties that the money will be paid back, plus profits will be given. Now, that Hete Iske is a very good vehicle for arranging when one person wants to invest his money, one person doesn't have enough funds and wants to do a business deal, and he wishes to take money from somebody and give profits. The question arises in the banking system in Eretz Yisrael, and also between people here, wherever it may be. When one person needs money, let's say to buy a house, he wants to buy a house to live in. He wants to buy a house, and for some reason he's not able to take a loan from the bank because he doesn't have the line of credit, and he has a friend who's willing to help him. His friend does have a possibility of borrowing money from the bank because they know him and they trust him. So therefore, let's say the purchaser of the house doesn't have a capability of borrowing money. His friend, Mr. Shimon, does have the capability, access to a line of credit to funds from the bank. So the two of them want to have an agreement that the buyer of the house, Mr. Reuven, wants to buy the house, cannot borrow money, so Shimon, his friend, will borrow money from the bank. He will use this money to buy the house, which will of course be on his name, because he's the fellow who's borrowing the money. And then the Reuven, the one who in truth intends to own the house, will pay back to the bank the original loan plus the ribbis, plus the interest which the bank requires from Shimon to pay. So we have two people who get on very well with each other. Reuven wants to buy his house, Shimon is able to provide him with the funds, and everybody's very happy about it. Shimon actually is not making any profit at all on this deal. He's doing his friend a favor, but in halachic aspects, he is the one who's providing money for Reuven to buy a house. Reuven is borrowing the money from Shimon so that Reuven can buy his house.
Even Shimon is the bank.
Shimon is the bank, that's correct. He's lending money to Reuven, and Reuven is paying him his costs, the original keren, the original loan, plus interest. So obviously Reuven is not allowed to borrow this money from Shimon because there's a problem of ribbis, there's a problem of interest. Because in halacha we look at it, who is providing the funds? As you said, Shimon, he's the bank. He's lending the money to Reuven. Reuven is buying a house, and Reuven is going to pay interest to Shimon. Indirectly, he's going to pay the bank, he's going to pay the payments every month, and the actual fact, he's paying Shimon's loan in the bank, and he's paying interest for Shimon. So that's not allowed.
Because the bank is not interested to deal with Reuven.
Absolutely. The bank is not interested in lending Reuven money, so they've lent Shimon money. Shimon has taken a bank loan and has lent it to Reuven.
So that's the third party then.
There is a third party, but in actual fact, it's the bank lending Shimon the money, and Shimon is then taking the money which he's borrowed from the bank and lending it to Reuven. So Reuven, when he pays the bank, he's paying on behalf of Shimon. So there's a problem of interest there.
This is called back to back because he is paying to the first one
through
the one who guaranteed him. But the actual
guaranteed him. He actually took the loan. He actually took the loan. Shimon actually took the loan from the bank, and he lent the money which he took to Reuven. So Reuven has borrowed money from Shimon. Shimon's borrowed money from the bank. Reuven cannot pay interest indirectly to anybody.
Is maybe the point that if Shimon does not pay back the bank and nor does Reuven, never will the bank go back to Reuven, even if they have an insurance contract. The client is only Shimon.
Shimon is the client.
And only
Shimon has lent money to Reuven, and Reuven is not allowed to pay interest. So one would presume that we'll write a heta iske between Reuven, who's taking the loan from Shimon, and Shimon, who's providing the money. We'll write a heta iske that Shimon is providing funds to Reuven, and they become partners, and the regular heta iske. Now the question is, Reuven is taking money to buy a house. What's he doing with the house? He's going to live there. Is this a business deal? Is this a business venture?
No.
It doesn't seem to be a business venture. It seems that Reuven's going to buy a house, live there happily ever after, as the story goes, and and pay ribbis, pay interest. So how can we accept the idea that this is that this is an iska, this is some sort of business deal, where Reuven and Shimon are going into partnership, and they're going to have profit coming from this partnership, and Shimon is going to receive a share of the profits. If one looks at it, it's not a business deal at all. It's just somebody buying a house and living there, and there's no profits whatsoever.
Maybe for Reuven it's a business deal, but because it's obviously a better deal than paying rent for some reason. But for Shimon, he has absolutely nothing from this.
Now the question is, can we truly say that this is a business venture which will produce profit and which Shimon is entitled to a part of? That's the question. It goes
basically, the whole operation here is that Shimon is enabling Reuven to get this transaction done by his interfering.
By providing funds.
By providing funds. So
but he has no benefit.
It's true he has no benefit. Is it a business deal?
It may be considered as a business.
Why? What sort of business is this?
Otherwise, Reuven cannot get.
Yeah.
There are business without.
No, but he wants to buy a house to live in. No,
yes.
He's not buying it for a business purpose. He's buying to live in it.
Yeah.
Is that a business?
He's helping his friend.
Actually, there is a possibility that it can become a business because the house can go up in the price. He can make more money on it.
And what about Shimon?
Okay.
And what about Shimon?
Everything we have can increase in value, but it is not always. It is not business generally.
So the question is, can we find a business aspect to it? Let's take another case, a more extreme case, where somebody wants to borrow money to pay his grocery bill. In Eretz Yisrael, people actually have overdrafts. I probably do here as well. And they give out checkim in Eretz Yisrael, to the makolet to pay their grocery bill. And they overdraft the bank because they don't have the money in the account. And what sort of business is this considered by if a person borrows money to pay his grocery bill, or even to buy groceries? He wants to buy milk and bread in the morning and cottage, so he goes to the makolet and he gives a check which has no money in them, and he's using his overdraft and he's buying food. Now, is that also considered a business deal? I don't think the food goes up in value. It might go down in value, but it won't go up in value, especially after it's eaten. So, how can we say that these sort of transactions are covered by Heta Iska? Because when you go into the bank in Israel or you write a check out and you overdraft, you use your overdraft facilities, in the end the bank's going to charge you interest for it. And it's true, the bank has a Heta Iska hanging on the wall, every single bank has a Heta Iska hanging on the wall which says clearly that any transactions which have a problem of ribbis are covered by this Heta Iska, which is a general Heta Iska. It's called the Heta Iska Kloli, which the bank had specially drawn up by Rabbanim. Now the question is this considered a business deal? So, it's very difficult to say that when a person's buying groceries or clothes or games or whatever it may be, and it's not a business venture, that this should come under the general Heta Iska, because the Heta Iska is drawn up on the understanding that we're doing business together.
And that there's a sharing of profits.
A sharing of profits. Well, if one person buys his house, now, you are correct in saying that when a person buys a house, one would hope that it would go up in value. It would actually go up in value. That's the norm of houses one has seen. Normally, over the course of years, the money actually does go up in value. The house actually does go up in value. So therefore, one could suggest he's also saving money. First of all, he's making money by the fact that he's invested in a house. The fact that he's living there doesn't disturb anybody. But if it is an investment of some sort, by the fact that the money that the house does gain, it does go up in value, it could be considered a business deal where there is value increased in the house. It could also be considered that he's not paying rent, and this money, which he wouldn't usually pay for rent, now to a certain extent becomes free for him to use in his other business activities.
No, he's paying the same amount.
Paying the same, I might be saying the pay amount is rent. Normally it's not paying the same amount of rent, but
buying for himself, let's say. He has this advantage.
So this argument can be used.
Can be used. Now, so what happens is, if you look at the regular Heta Iska, it says in the regular Heta Iska that the regular Heta Iska says that I'm going to use this money for the best possible business venture which I find. So this is not covering the buying of a house to live in, and it's not covering a person who's using the money for his own, to go on holiday or whatever it may be. This is definitely not covering that sort of borrowing of money for private use. However, you get some other Heta Iskas which know about the problems of people borrowing money for personal use. So what they write is, they add in another line. They have the regular Heta Iska, which reads that I, the undersigned, agree that I make in a statement, I agree that I have received certain funds from the person who's provided the funds, and I have accepted upon myself to invest this money in the best possible way which I could find, which will produce profits. Now, if they add on, if I wish to use this money, on my own personal needs, that means I want to buy a house, or I want to buy a car, I want to buy clothes for my wife, I want to buy food, or I want to pay loans which I've taken out and I have to pay these loans. Then it says another line, and this line saves it. Then I will automatically give the person who's provided the money to me, I will give him a share in other business ventures which I already have.
A kind of compensation.
That will be, instead of using the money which is provided with me for actual business, I might use it for myself. And that money, which I use for myself, but against that, I will give him a share, I will transfer ownership from other business ventures which I have to this person, and he will become a partner in other business ventures which I have.
If I have them.
If you have them. And since we presume that you do have other business ventures, then we say that's okay now. You use the money to pay your grocery bill, but since you probably have other business ventures, because you're a businessman, therefore if you're a businessman and you have invested maybe in stocks and shares, God forbid, maybe not, God forbid, depends how you do it, or you've invested in other things, or you have an ongoing business, you yourself are a business person, you own a shop, or you have some business, whatever it may be, then you give a share, you transfer ownership of, if I say I borrow 100,000 euros, I transfer ownership in my other business ventures for the sum of 100,000 to the person who's provided with the money, and although I've used the money which he provided me for something which is inherently not a business venture, nevertheless I have made him a partner in my other business ventures.
What about employment? If the person is employed only, is it considered as a business that he is going with a partnership with this bank?
If he's in employment, he doesn't have any other businesses, some people will suggest that it's definitely forbidden, because you can't give any ownership to somebody else. There's no other business which you can provide there's no other business which you can provide. So therefore it's not allowed. Other people will say that the fact that I have somewhere to live will help me be able to work properly and have a job. If I have nowhere to live and I'm forced to live on a very low standard, I won't be able to have a house to live in because I'm paying rent and I can't sleep because I don't know how to pay and all the rest of it. I won't be able to have a job. Then the fact that I'm employed and I have somewhere to live makes me a possibility of producing some sort of profits. That, as I said to you, is a far-fetched idea, but that is also included in a possible way of covering this idea. The problem starts when you have people who are learning in kollel. People who are learning in kollel and they're not actually working at all. They're doing great service to the public by learning Torah, but they're not in any business deal. They don't have any business deals.
It's the difference with somebody who's employed. He gets some money from
it's
a schwache income, you call it.
It's definitely,
No, not certain the income, but he's got an income, he's to live with.
He's got some income, but I don't think it's connected somehow to
He has nothing to share. There's nothing to share. There's no business to share.
No, but the one who's employed neither. He's also not.
So there are a lot of poskim who tell you, be careful when relying on a heta iske. The old Rav of London, Rav Padua, said clearly, he does not agree on giving on allowing a heta iske being used when somebody's taking a mortgage from the bank to buy a house to live in. He didn't agree with this idea that a person can say, I'm buying a house, and that is a business deal.
No, sorry, Rabbi, I still want to come back to this point.
Yeah, please.
Say Shimon, we go back to Shimon now, yes?
Yeah.
The middleman, right? The bank is considered, for instance, we take an Israeli bank with Eteriska, right?
Yes.
Can we take it as a Shimon who is in partnership with a foreign bank who provides the funds for this bank to lend to people?
Shimon has a line of credit?
With a foreign bank, which is a Goyishe bank.
A non-Jewish bank, yeah.
Yes.
Bank
Then the bank goes as a partner with the Goyishe bank to have a profit out of the services provided to the bank to make money on lending money to a person. Is that the heta iska also?
You don't need the heta iska if you have a non-Jewish bank.
But otherwise there is no possible ways of having heta iska with most of the loans people take to buy an apartment or house. Or
it's Shimon who is prohibited to take, not getting it. If he gets it from a non-Jewish bank, he has no problem.
We're not talking about Shimon anymore. We're talking about the Jewish bank. The point is about the bank now. With heta iska.
Right. So the question is, a Jewish bank, a Jewish-owned bank, Bank HaPa'alim, let's presume it's owned by Yidden, it's a Jewish bank, and they're lending money to you to buy your house.
Right.
Now, what sort of iska is that? They're lending money to you. Are you working with that money to produce profits?
No, I'm buying
a house.
Okay. They're making money for your percentage. You're paying them.
The question is, how are you allowed to give them ribbit? How are you allowed to pay interest
What makes
on the loan?
it an iska?
Yes.
It's only an iska if you're working with it. So that's a problem.
Yes.
So the banks in Israel have had specially drawn up heta iska, which somehow includes if the person has other businesses that they become partners in his other business. Okay? The person who's taking the money to buy a house, he might have other businesses. Let's say he's a shopkeeper, a shop owner, or he has a business, whatever it may be. They become partners in his other businesses, although this itself, the money they're providing, is not a business venture. Okay? That's covered by Jewish law. The problem is if he uses, if he has no other business, then already you get into difficulty. The question is, a from person, somebody who wants to be Shomre Torah mitzvahs, and he wants to borrow money from a Yid, and he doesn't really have any other businesses which are worth the money which he's borrowing. If a person here borrows 200,000 euros, and he doesn't have another business which is worth 2,000 euros, which he can make the person who's lending him the money a partner in. So how is he going to give profit on this 200,000 euros? And that's what Rabbi Padua says. If you're using the money for a private purpose, and it's not for a business purpose, you shouldn't borrow money relying on a heta iska.
May I suggest something? From the point, our problem is the bank, not the receiver. The bank, how is it?
Receiver also is
One moment.
problem.
For the bank itself, our question is here, if it's an iska, yes or no?
So it's a problem for the person who's taking the money from the bank to pay the money
as
to
a
the bank.
consequence,
Both.
yeah, both sides.
Both sides. Jewish person.
When the bank is giving him money,
Yeah.
the apartment itself, for example,
Yeah.
is considered as a collateral for the bank.
Right.
So the possession is of the bank. He can be considered, meanwhile, as a tenant till he pays. So the bank has here got an interest. It's his possession, and the one who took the money is a tenant by his apartment. So it's a business.
But he can sell it.
It's his collateral.
I don't think it says that in the.
Of course, it's a collateral. As long as
means
not
that
paid.
it belongs to you.
Yeah.
In case
To the person who bought it.
Yeah.
But if you do not pay, the thing they have entitlement to sell the apartment.
Meanwhile, it's considered, it's registered.
They have a
in the
lien
register.
on it. It's
A
not
lien?
registered.
הערת אזהרה.
You are owner from the
You are
day,
owner of the
the
property.
day you
Tabo
buy.
is yours, ownership.
It is yours.
Retroactively,
No,
after
from
you
the-
pay.
no.
From the first moment?
From the
I believe
moment.
so, I believe so.
Yes.
They have the first
You buy
shiur,
the
they have the
house.
first shiabud on it, they have the first loan, they have the first right.
You can sell it.
You can sell it, and as long as you
it
pay by the bank.
no. It says that you cannot sell the house as long as the bank is not being repaid.
No, you can sell it, but you must pay the bank.
Yeah.
If there is enough value in the house to pay the bank, you cannot be forbidden to pay to sell it.
What
the
you are
bank-
cannot?
You are not forbidden to
So
sell
the
it.
same token,
But you must
No,
pay
but,
it.
but the notary or the ones who does the transfer will not transfer if the bank hasn't said you can go ahead.
The bank
Not
is
put a
lending money
clause
to
to
people.
forbid you to
You are
sell.
enjoying
No.
the rebates.
You're talking about a Jewish
Says
bank.
only that
Yes.
he has a priority.
So in a
to-
Jewish bank, the thing is as follows. If I deposit money, I'm actually lending, as we learned once upon a time, I'm lending the bank money.
Right.
That's correct. I'm lending money to the bank. They're giving me their interest. So of course, a Jewish bank, it would appear that they're not allowed to give interest to me, but that isn't so simple. I explain why a Jewish bank is entitled to give interest. Let's think of another scenario just to clear up things. If I have a limited company, yeah, in this part of the world it's called BVBA, a limited company. I own a limited company and I want to take a loan from a Jewish person, or no, it's a sort I want to take from a Jewish bank, right? So I have a business which states clearly that there are limitations to the responsibility to pay back the loan. If I borrow money from the bank, my business, my company, and it's a PV Be'ah, it means that there are limitations to the responsibility which I have, which are limited to what the company owns. The assets of the company, and only the assets of the company, are, as it were, collateral to the repayment of this loan. If I behave in the correct way, and I make business with it, and then for some reason the business goes fa'it, goes bankrupt, the bank cannot come to me as the owner of all the shares in this company and ask me to come up. That's the law of the banks. In such cases, Rav Moshe Feinstein says clearly, I am not considered as borrowing money. When is a person considered as a borrower, as a loiver, and the Torah says, I borrow money, I'm not allowed to pay it, but I'm not allowed to pay interest.
His
It's when
person
I am the person who owes the money, and anything which I owe is responsible towards paying back. If I borrow money from you, then I'm responsible to pay it back to you. And if I have a car, that's also collateral to the money which I owe you. And if I have a house, that's also collateral to the money I owe you. So I am the borrower, and my nechosim, my own, the things which I own, my possessions are collateral to the repayment of the loan. But if I borrow, my company borrows money,
which is a legal entity,
as far as the bank is concerned, even if halacha will say that we don't look at a legal entity. But the fact of the matter is that the bottom line is that they can never come to me personally and say I owe the money, then I'm not the loiver. There is no actual Jewish person who's borrowing money. Therefore, Rav Moshe Feinstein says, a legal company entity, a company which is a PVBR, it's permitted, the company is permitted to take a loan and pay from the company interest. Because there is no actual Jewish person borrowing money. He is not considered a halachic loiver, because he has no personal responsibility.
It's the
same thing is with a bank who I deposit with. Since the owners of the bank have no personal responsibility to pay me back, it's only according to the assets of the bank, according to the banking laws and all the rest of it, which obliges the bank to pay the money. If the bank goes bankrupt, then the government might pay. But the owners of the bank, the shareholders of the bank, have no legal responsibility to fish out from their pockets their own personal money. Therefore, they are allowed to pay me interest.
The same distinction we had also in Chametz Bepesach.
Well, in Chametz Bepesach we said that we don't always accept.
But Moshe Feinstein...
I'm not sure if he, in this case, he would accept it either. This case is a special halacha because even if we don't accept that the company is a goof by itself, and I actually borrowed the money, but since I have no obligations, according to the bank, myself, there are no obligations on me. All they've said is that this company and all its assets will be used to pay back, even if you don't accept this as owning by itself, but I personally don't have responsibility.
Even if the is owned 100% by...
yes, even if it's owned 100% by me, I'm the one and only shareholder of 100%. Since, in actual fact, I have no personal responsibility, I'm not considered the normal borrower, which the Torah says I'm not allowed to borrow money for it.
Coming back to Rav Padre in London.
Rav Padre in London says that if I personally borrow money, to buy a house, and they will actually only lend it to me, because they won't lend it to the company because of the limitations, they will lend it only to me to buy the house, and I have no business deal here whatsoever, Rav Padre says you should not rely on a heta iska for personal loans. And the bottom line is that if people want to keep the law properly, keep the halacha properly, and want to use heta iska, it should be really retained only for business deals. For a person who wants to use money to invest in a business, to buy a property for investment purposes, to use anything which is going to create profit, then we have no problem whatsoever relying on the heta iska. On the other hand, if it's something which is personal loans and he has no other businesses whatsoever which he can actually link to the loan which he's taken, then a person shouldn't use the heta iska. Now it's very important that anybody who has dealings with Jewish people should have a heta iska kloli. A heta iska kloli is a form of heta iska which covers all transactions which he ever may do in the future.
As opposed to
a particular small heta iska which covers only one particular deal. And I advise, therefore, anybody here who has dealings in any way whatsoever with any other Yid should fill in now. You don't have to. It doesn't take very much time to fill in. All you have to do is sign your name, be makabel kinyan, that you've accepted that all deals which you'll do in the future and have or may have with other Yidden, the other Jewish people, which might have a problem of ribis, is automatically, although you talk about interest, although you don't realize, is automatically what you mean, you announce, and there's witnesses who will sign it, that all your future dealings are covered by heta iska. This can save the person from future dealings which he might not think about have a problem of ribis, and there might actually really be a problem of ribis, that will allow the person to at the end of the day not to transgress any problems of ribis.
This is actually the text that the bank is using.
I don't know exactly. The bank might have a different one. You definitely have an etis klali, but they might have a more particular one with more holes in it, more actual clauses in it, and therefore I suggest anybody who would like now to fill in the Hadas, I think we can turn off the video, and if you want, you can leave it on, and as far as I'm concerned.